Hello and welcome to Unread Books. Today I have 3 books about computer games. I must say computer games are a newish kind of hobby for me. Being the old man I am today, I have never really played computer games very much until my late 40s, actually. And I have discovered them and found that they were really something worth doing. And as always, I was interested in what exists in form of knowledge and literary stuff connected with it. In fact, I wanted to know which games exist. Of course, the internet and Steam and GOG and Epic and just, I wish I get money for my advertising, are a good way to find out what exists and what people think about it. But, as always, I was interested in what books exist. And the first book I came across was called 151 Video Games. Actually, an illustrated history of 151 video games, but I found it interesting that it was like 100 or 150. No, 151. That must be very, very important. Yes, and this is the kind of book that is always the right kind of book to start with. I remember when I started to drink alcohol, I wanted to... Also pretty late, by the way. I wanted to get a book about like cocktails and what alcohols exist, and I bought something like this. I think it's a good way to find a book that is pleasing to the eye, that has a good layout, doesn't go too deep into the history, and starts by giving you little snippets of its subject, actually. And of course it starts with the 1970s, with like what computers looked like, gaming computer. It's about games, right? It's not about the history of computers in general, but about games. And this seems to be a nice computer game at the time, and you see why it didn't really start spreading like wildfire, because to buy something like this must have been very, very expensive, and to have it at your home, requested a woman like this standing next to it, handing you cocktails. Yeah, that was like the 70s, when people played Pong on a machine like this, and later leaf through the new Playboy magazine to find out what watch to buy, like a Rolex or something like that. I think that this book is great for exactly that reason. By the way, that was, I think, the first thing. No, it wasn't. No, forget what I said. Pong was the first thing that came up in my family, and this is that was too sophisticated for me. By the way, did I see correctly that, it tells you little things like what this originally cost in the year 1977, and some information. I love books, by the way, that limit the space they use for each topic to a number of pages, like 1 page, or here like 2 pages about Space Invaders. Understandably, Space Invaders was really a great step forward, and the lesser games get like 1/4 of a page. That's something I like about modern books. If you find books from the 70s about topics, probably not about computer games, but about stuff like this, you usually see half pages and so on. I love this. Okay, that's great. Also, the mix of text and pictures is wonderful here. Donkey Kong, the usual suspects, of course. And then there's something about the Commodore 64. If you are like me, you had one. No, I had a Commodore 128, actually. It felt like I was better until I learned that I couldn't actually do as much with mine as other people could do with the Commodore 64, which wasn't much either. I didn't have nerd friends in those days, but even the heavy metal listening guys from the worst part of the town, they had a Commodore 64, and we swapped we swapped games for that. By the way, in the 80s, I received games on cassettes, on real audio cassettes, and I could turn them into a computer game. However that worked, I'm still not sure. But I never even knew you could buy games until the end of the decade, I suppose. I always thought these games were produced and given to children on the playground or on the schoolyard, and I didn't know you could buy them. So, looking back, I would say sorry to all the publishers. Yeah, there's an interesting story about E.T., which you might know better than I do if you are a gaming nerd looking at this video because you expected some background knowledge. Who am I making this video for? For people who are interested in interesting books, I suppose, not gamers. So if I say something that sounds stupid to you, as a gaming nerd, it's because I had a life, and I had things to do. Elite. That's how we pronounce it in the old country. Elite. Elite, is it called that in English? I had that, and what I could do was start the game. But because I had a copy and I didn't have any background information, I didn't know what to do in the game. So I remember, I think that the thing moved and then it crashed, and that was the game for me. And to this day, I wonder what the fuzz is all about. Why people are so affectionate to this game. Yeah, many people looking through this with me will say, "Oh yeah, that's the game. I remember. I played Dragon Quest in those days." What age are we here? What decade? In the 90s or in the 2000s already? Maniac Mansion. People told me about that. "Oh, you will like that. You're a horror film fan." And I said, "Yeah, but I don't have a computer to play it on." And what's the use of a game if you can't play it? And by the way, I like films because I want to have passive entertainment. This is the last game I actually remember. Ghouls and Ghosts. No, it's not. Ghosts and Goblin. That's the last forget it. That's the last thing I remember where I said, "Oh, the graphics are really good. We must have reached the point where it won't get any better." Yeah. And then came the time, I think, in the 1990s, here we are, in the 1990s, where I lost all interest in the development of computer games. I know that a friend of mine had a Game Boy and played with it, and I thought, that's a waste of time, actually. So I didn't get all this. I know what Lemmings were, and somebody liked to play them, and I said, "Oh, that's cute," and that was it. My problem today is, whenever I find something like a new kind of music, I want to get into the history. I want to listen to the first examples of that music and how it developed, and then to find out what the later development was like and what the comeback of the genre was. With computer games, you can't really do that very well. Because if I download Command and Conquer on good old games, or it's very clunky, actually. It's difficult to play, and the joy I get out of it is not very much. Some of these games, I think you can't even. Quake has been republished, upgraded, updated, but in general, yeah, I couldn't play that today and enjoy it. That's why I like the idea of Let's Plays, where people put a game online and even walkthroughs. So if I'm really interested in Parappa the Rapper, whatever that is, I can hopefully find a total full walkthrough on, it has 2 pages, must be something important, on YouTube. And then I know enough about the game. Actually, that goes for a lot of newer games too, because I've heard good things about GoldenEye, by the way. But I would like to play it, but I could also enjoy others playing it. It's difficult with games, right? Because you have to be good. And I'm an old man, and I don't have all the development in my system. My hands don't work very well and with these games. So I like modern games very much, but even then I sometimes look at a let's play and I'm happy I don't have to do it. Actually, anything that has to do with dexterity, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Okay, let's see how the book ends. I don't even remember when the book was made. Here we are slowly heading towards the games that you can play today. Grand Theft Auto 3, yeah, I tried it, but Grand Theft Auto 4, for example, is totally playable and enjoyable today. So why waste your time on the past and play like Knights of the Old Republic when you can play like Battlefield 2 or something like that? Well, there's actually reasons, but that's an insider thing. Yeah, I have to wait until all these old games are remade, or rather until a sequel is made, like God of War. There's a new modern game which people say is quite good. What happened to Guitar Hero? I had a friend who played that, and I tried it, didn't like it, but is it still a thing today? Because I think you needed hardware for that, right? You needed really some guitar of some kind, I think. I don't know. Okay, let's see what the last pages are. Street Fighter, Braid. Are these really the best games from the later years? Far Cry. I played Far Cry 5. Liked it. But again, for non-gamers, it takes a long time to finish a game. I would like to play Far Cry 2, but I've heard even better things about Far Cry 3. Uncharted, that's said to be a good, like an interactive movie, so that might be a good crossover if you like movies, would like to try games, you should play an Uncharted game. If you're a gamer and like more interactivity, that's not a good thing. Dark Souls is so hard that people rather die than play it. I've heard, I don't know, Journey is very, very aesthetic, and that's it, right? We finish in the year 2012, so this book is pretty old. If you make a sequel to this book now, of the time since 2012, I think then you have a lot of games that I actually know. And yeah, in this form, I would like to have a book like that, to see myself leaf through these books and read something and see some screenshots from games that I really played or that I have in my ever-growing and less played collection on Steam. I would appreciate something like that. That's a perfect way to create a book for about any topic, actually, that you get into. Okay, being interested in games and not wanting to spend too much money, I realized there's something called indie games, like independent games. And I was curious about that, and funnily enough, there's a book about that too. 250 indie games you must play. As you can see, this book is much smaller and not as visually pleasing. It is full color, but it's just one page, little text, then a little homepage where you can find the game, and one screenshot. Not much information, but this book has become more and more interesting to me, because in the beginning I went over to the other book because I had so much to keep up with, to find out what is considered a good and important game, what is considered less so. Here I don't have to, but now that I know the mainstream, I'm getting more and more interested in these indie games. And I think the good thing about that is they are made, as you can see, in sometimes a retro style. I mean, I don't know how old they actually were. I can't see when the game was published, and that maybe is okay, because these games age better than the others. If you liked GTA 5 and then you play GTA 3, you see a big difference and say, let's wait for GTA 6, right? But if you take a game probably like, I don't know, Dreamside Maroon, never heard about it, or Jable's Adventure, never heard about it, or Hero Core, it will probably play just as fine now as it played when it came out, because this look is now retro. These games do not attempt to cater to your what you call quality of life, right? These games do not try to be simple to play to have a complex game and to make it easy for people to get into it or play it. These games have a vision, maybe one concept, one way to play it, and this worked then and this works today. This is the first game I played, by the way, called The Graveyard. And you shouldn't even call it a game, right? Because it's just you are this old woman, this old lady walking down a graveyard and then sitting down, as far as I remember. That's an interesting thing. I mean, connected with indie games, you know. A guy who wrote a book about games or computer games said rightly that game is maybe the wrong word, but there's no better word for that. But you could say it's a kind of virtual experience or an experimental program, you know, a visual novel or something like that. There's a lot of words fitting to the stuff that it is, and these indie games really make it easy to understand that. But at the same time, it's sometimes not easy to find these games, to get them, to install them. And as you can see, a lot of these games look pretty similar. I mean, they are like platformers where you jump from one space to another, something. The best of them might be like puzzle games, like Samorost. That is still a thing today, I think. Or Run Jesus Run. What's that? That might be just like a joke of a jump and run game with Jesus walking on the water or whatever. Some of these things are really pretentious. Others aren't. Some of these things are a pain to play, I think. Some of them are totally forgettable. And others are well worth the experience. I wish there was one source for indie games. I mean, there is one. Is it itch.io? I think that's a good source for indie games in general to look out. But it needs homepages, or it needs like books like these to make people aware of some of these games. I'm sure there are YouTube channels that concentrate on indie games and might be well worth the effort of looking through that. But then, of course, there's the question, is it if you've seen a let's play or an idea of the game, isn't that enough? Do you have to play it yourself? It takes time, doesn't it? Osmos. I played this on my Android tablet. That was really great, but it has disappeared, I think, from the Play Store. And that's another thing. I don't know if they are looking for a publisher, if the publisher changes or whatever. What happens to these games, and where can you find them? We need some archive of indie games, and this book might be a good way to look at certain things. It's a nice book with some interesting ideas, and yeah, I welcome this. Okay, the last book about computer games is a special thing by a man called Stuart Ashen. And I think I have to give me a second. I have to move in closer. Does it work? Does it work? Am I closer now? I think I am. Oh yes, that works. There's still my reading mark in there. By the way, that my tip to use reading marks is not just to never buy a commercially available bookmark. You know, use these things that stick without leaving a residue there, because then you have an easier time, never falls out or whatever. Okay, Stuart Ashen is a YouTuber I like very much. Crazy kind of guy who only see his hands while he describes things and never shows his face. And yes, that's a book he published, I think, with Kickstarter, and like Kickstarter books should, they it looks quite worthy and valuable, and you have the face of a Patreon, of a money giver, I think, in the beginning. Yeah, Ashens is a nerd who shows stuff funny things, opens things on his couch, and he's also very well versed in computer games. And there's even videos about him talking about terrible old games you've probably never heard of. And he made a book about this, where he describes bad games, and me liking bad movies. It makes me interested, right? What is a bad game? I had a discussion about this with somebody some time ago, and the problem, it's difficult. It's too bright in here, isn't it? Can you see that very well? Because it's really nice paper and it's reflective. And okay, I had a discussion about that. If you like bad films, and you spend 80 minutes or a little more with a really bad film, that's good fun, especially with other people. You know, you can make fun of it, you can joke about the things, and sometimes bad films turn out to be not bad, but to be different kind of experience than regular cinema. Is it the same with games? In my discussion, somebody said, rightfully, I suppose, that you spend so much time with these games, and there's a learning curve, and then in the end you are frustrated. It's not the same thing. I think in a film, you see amateurs or people who didn't really know what they were doing. You see them failing. And maybe you feel bad for them. Maybe you feel good for them because they did something. You know, there's good examples for that. But you were not involved yourself. And playing a game like that, you are involved. You feel betrayed by the designers. You feel treated by the concepts. You feel like somebody's wasting your time badly, you know. And that's maybe not a good thing. But if you're a gamer, if you're more of a gamer than I am, maybe you enjoy that experience. And this book can give you some great ideas of what to look for and how games fade. The way it's written is very nice. I mean, Ashens has a wonderful sense of humor. And this book makes me feel what these games are like, without having to go through the pain and suffering of really playing it myself. You could have that too, and maybe even better if you watch a Let's Play of these things. But on the other hand, I think the book medium, again, like in many cases, the medium book creates a kind of chronically authoritative memory, if that makes any sense. You know, it creates the idea that these things are worth something. These are valuable documents of the human effort, of literature, of games, of cultural products, and I like that very much. That's why, even for the cheapest and most useless and trivial things, I would often, if not always, appreciate a book to exist. I don't need a book about Leonardo da Vinci, maybe about his life and to know some backgrounds, but I don't need reproductions of his art more than I already have. I don't need to have a book about the wonderful games you have definitely heard of. I need books about things I haven't heard of. Which, a long list of people who spend money on this, and bless them all, I would say. Yes, I would say we need more books chronicling failure, or rather chronicling the efforts of people who have aimed for something, but hit in a different spot, and thus maybe leading us to goals in our lives different from those we have learned to expect. Wow, that sounds like something I should have written down and turned into an inscription on something and sell it on on Etsy or something like that. Okay, these books getting smaller and smaller, still all, I think, fulfill the promise they made of giving me an illustrated history of video games until a certain year, and I would welcome another book of this, of showing me some things I didn't know about, giving me a little idea, not more than that, and know what to look out for, which is great, and to save me a lot of time and struggle through games that I wouldn't want to play. I like all of them, and I think they are all great companies for a night on YouTube, looking through the books, looking through some videos of people playing that, and maybe even all of them, especially those two, of trying to find ways of a few of these games really to play them in any way. And if you know of a good source for some of these games and some of those to where I can play them and test them, should be possible today, even in a browser, tell me so. I'd love to hear about it and get an easy way to waste some time on this. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.